Hello, my name is Casey Robinson. I am a student at Grand Canyon University in the class SPD 300. This is my video on special education law. I am going to review some very important timelines before the 1970s and after the 1970s that has impacted special education throughout the law, and I'm also going to go into some court cases that had a huge impact on special education. Before I do that, I'm going to give you some resources because all of the information in this video can be found somewhere on one of these resources, and it is good for all parents and educators to be informed as much as possible, as things are constantly changing, as we will see in this timeline. Wright's Law is my first resource for you. It's wrightslaw.com. There's court cases, parents' rights, procedures and policies, about everything on special education you can find on this website, and it's for all states. ECS.org is policy tracking. So one very important thing with special education, it is constantly changing. Policies, procedures, there's always new things being learned. So it's a policy tracking, and it also talks about fundings, so where the funding is going for special education. PAHAN.net is a parent guide to special education. And then peelcenter.org is resources and training and information, guidelines, and rights. Peelcenter.org is personally my favorite after going through all of them. These are both for Pennsylvania, the last two. There's so much information on peelcenter.org. I highly suggest that you go and look it up. We're going to go into when disabilities began in the timeline of law. In 1832, a school for the blind was opened in Boston, Massachusetts. In 1943, autism was finally classified by Leo Lanier of Johns Hopkins. In 1954, Brown versus Board was a court case that was taken for segregation. It revolved around racism and segregation of skin color, but it ended up leading into special education, segregation of disabilities, segregation of any type of group. In 1961, President Kennedy put a panel on mental retardation. In 1965, President Johnson signed the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is called ESEA, and it provides funding to public schools for all of these resources. In 1974, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act was created, and it gave parent consent they have to give consent for basically everything. It's almost like a HIPAA law. In 1975, the EHA was founded, and it was Education for All Handicapped Children. It gives free, appropriate education to all disabilities and all students in general. Appropriate as in not equal, it's appropriate for what their disability is. So it's not just throwing students into classrooms, which was a very important moment in history. This was also when IDEA was created. It's the first Special Education Act. There is a zero rejection, free education for all students, no matter how severe they have a disability. They least restrictive environments, non-discrimination, evaluations, confidentiality, and procedure safeguards. In 1997, IDEA raised their expectation. Inclusion was needed for special education students. In 2001, No Child Left Behind was founded. In 2004, Congress Special Education gave general education curriculum in the regular classroom. So basically inclusion. They said that special education students need to have the same curriculum and be in a general education classroom. This is inclusion, and then have more of accommodations rather than being pulled from classes. RTI is response to intervention. This is that there are policies in place that once a student needs to be evaluated, there is a response time. In 2005, the ESA, Every Student's Education Act, Every Student Succeeds Education Act is the ESSA from 2015, and it holds schools accountable for if the child is failing. These are the timelines of how much quickly things have changed in the past before the 1970s. Obviously, students with disabilities, they really didn't know what to do or how to educate them. They were segregated in many places. Only private schools had funding to have the classes that they needed, to have the resources that they needed, until certain acts and laws came into place where public schools were forced to begin to take care of and provide resources and give an equal education to special education students, which is incredibly important. One of the most notable ones, personally to me, is the 1971 Park versus Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They had a law that was denying free education for certain students of a certain mental capability. And this lawsuit actually led to the 1973 Act, which is called the 504 Act, which students cannot be denied educational services due to disabilities, or even if their parents can't afford those resources. They cannot deny any student for any reason. So I do believe that that's one of the most important court cases out there. I mean, they are all important, but that is a very important court case. Another one is obviously in 1954, Brown versus Board of Education. It was originally about segregation with skin color, but it led to segregation of any group. I mean, kids of special education and with disabilities shouldn't be segregated from a regular classroom or treated differently. And it gave the parents of children with disabilities that constitutional backup to support them. Another important one that is not very popular knowledge is in 2007, Jacob Wingelman versus Pharma City School District. Parents may pursue claims under IDEA. Whether the school wants to pursue those claims or not, parents have the right to seek out evaluations and for their children. They have that right to have their child evaluated, to push for special services if they believe they're needed. And it's not the school's decision, it's the parents. There's so many court cases that could be listed, but we don't have enough time. All of these are on the resources I gave you in the beginning of the video. There's so many. I highly suggest that everybody looks at this, not just parents of special education students, not just educators of special education. I believe that everybody should be knowledgeable on our laws and our rights and our policies and procedures for education in general. All of the resources are very informative. And if you have any questions, obviously this video is posted on this website for a reason. You can call the school, you can email through this website. If the parents, you can contact me directly. I'm sure I'll be listed on the website also. I just want everybody to be informed because they all have that rights. Thank you for your time.